I want to share with you the things that I've taken to the figure drawing open studio yesterday at KAC, which I really love going every once a month or so because I do have a son. The timing is quite difficult, but regardless, I went yesterday. So I'll show you with you what I've taken, and I'll show you the final piece, which is a piece that I don't really want to share because it turned out not as I wanted to, but I just wanted to share with you these vulnerable bits as well, because I think it's a good learning for me as well as it might be for you watching. And then finally, I want to share with you with a bit of the things that I've been working on. So first of all, I took this car wash sponge with me to wipe off my brush, because I use big flat brushes for my figure drawing open studio. I don't really use flat brushes that much when I'm usually painting at home because I like to get into the details when I paint. But with figure drawing, what I tend to do is like I just want to carve out the large areas, so then I use flat brushes because they're kind of like working on sculpture, you know, you're kind of like placing the watercolor in certain areas. But these are the flat brushes I took yesterday. I usually take like different flat brushes, the ones from Anya Divine brush set that I recommend. Yeah, and also the Winsor & Newton flat brushes, but this time around, like I took these cheap ones as well as the Emily Hughes Craftimo flat brushes as well, and they were lovely. So I think I'll stick with that. As well as the Anya Divine. I'm not sure if I'll be taking these round brushes anymore. I didn't use this one at all. This is the Winsor & Newton brush that I really love usually working with at home, but I might even not take all the round brushes because I'll let you know why in a second. And with these big flat brushes, I just love like wiping them off with this like car sponge. It kind of works well because if I'm using like a paper towel, it just soaks up the water really quick and it's not really useful anymore. I took this color palette. So I squeezed out some more paint tubes, but this is the color palette that I have that I normally use. So let me just walk you through the whole colors. So this is Cobalt Violet, which I really love. It's by Schmincke. They have the best violets, I think. And then this one is the French Ultramarine Daniel Smith. This is the Aqua Green Winsor & Newton. It's got this really strong flowiness to it, and it's like my image of water. So I really love that. I used the Core Sap Green. Because I think when I'm working with portraits, that's the green. When you mix with red, it gives the closest desaturated feel of the skin, so I use that. But I really love, I'm a big fan of Viridian, and with Viridian, I found out that I like the M. Graham Viridian the best. It has this nice granulation as well as the stickiness that's really nice as well sometimes. And I think it was the Pearlin Crimson. This is from Core. This is the Quinacridone Coral, and this is one of the reds that I just absolutely love. It's this like, it can go really like peachy kind of color as well as really dark, and mixing this with Viridian and the French Ultramarine gives you a very nice moon glow kind of look. Moon glow is like a pigment from Daniel Smith that I absolutely love. It's this one. But what happens with this is that it's not really light fast, although it says light fast, like 5-star rating. It has the PG18, which is, I believe, the Viridian pigment index, PB29, which is ultramarine, and then PR177, which is typically, I forgot what it's called, but basically the red fades away and it's not really light fast. So you can mix your own moon glow with like ultramarine, quinacridone coral, and then with the Viridian that you have available. And then this one is the transparent pearl orange, I think. This is from Core as well. So these three right here is from the Ali Cavanagh's portrait set, and I quite love using for the figure drawing open studio. This used to be another yellow from that portrait set of Ali Cavanagh's, but I just love yellow ochre from the M. Graham. It's just very heavy, thick color. I just love using that color. I just don't like the intensity and the transparency of the yellow that I used to use before. And then this is the John Brilliant number 2, which is really close to the skin tone. And sometimes I just need to quickly put in a bit of white opaque kind of color where I layer some color that I didn't want. And with watercolor, you can't really edit things or erase things, or Control Z as Kellogg Sloops calls it. So I use that to just like kind of erase some areas and make it more brighter when I can't just quickly use my Daniel Smith white watercolor stick. And then this one is Payne's Gray, and I think that's a color like I have so I can go darker, as well as the Van Dyke Brown. This was taught by Anya Devine at her workshop where she used this color. And there's sometimes like I really want to get a rich kind of dark color, then I mix Van Dyke Brown with the ultramarine and it gives a really lovely granulating color. So I love the combination of these two. But I have Rockwell Lapis Brown. Now I am in love with this color. This is one of the pigments that I have to have. I mean, I can take these out and just replace it with this, but the problem with the Rockwell Lapis Brown is that it's not quite light fast. I've done a light fastness test and it didn't turn out. It lost its readiness, I think it was. So kind of want to stay away, but it's just pretty. I have to use it. So this is something new that I took yesterday. It's the Graphite Tint XL blocks. I've done an art haul where I showed this. I think it was the Japan art haul because that was the time that this was back ordered and it finally got delivered after I came back from Japan, after I bought so much stuff in Japan. So yeah, so I used this because I just wanted to have a go. It's kind of nice to incorporate new mediums into your work and like kind of have that playful mentality. So that's what I did, but I'll eventually show you what did not work. And then of course paper towel just in case. And I used these Faber-Castell 5 Graphite Aquarelle pencils because I wanted to sketch things out like roughly. I usually just go with my brushes with the watercolor when I'm doing this figure drawing piece, but I realized like, wait a minute, I could even use this. So I was kind of being more playful yesterday and kind of experimenting with different things. I've never quite used it, but I would say that one of the downside after using this was, unlike just a normal pencil that I normally use to sketch out my drawings and then paint at home, not for figure drawing, they kind of like darkened a bit, and because they're soluble with water, they kind of got dark in some areas and got like desaturated with the colors that I was using. Like when I went inside with the transparent pearl orange, it just got this muddy look. So I didn't quite like that about it. But it might work if I used it only for the darkest dark value areas and went really light. Maybe with the HB pencil it would have been better. I'm planning to use these again. They were fun. And then of course I need my paintbrush holders. They come in handy, so I took 2 of these to place my paintbrush. And then finally I took this with me, but really I didn't use anything from here yesterday. So I got my water brush. I got the Rosemary & Co. travel brushes that I didn't use. I got my pen, which I didn't use. I got my palette, small palette that I didn't use. But what I did use was this spray bottle, obviously, to spray my palette to activate the watercolor, as well as the Daniel Smith watercolor stick that's in here. And yeah, I don't think I used the eraser. I really didn't need to take this whole thing, but it's always good to like, have that mentality of like, I got everything I need, so I'm okay. And let me show you the final piece that I painted yesterday. So this is it. I know, it's scary, right? So I first went over with the water-soluble pencils, kind of mapped out some areas quickly. And then I started off with using this graphite tint block. I used the aubergine one right here, as you can see. And then I went in with my watercolor. And it started out being quite nice, but what happened along the way was the model changed her position once. And then I was like trying to figure out the new location of the things. And this was a long pose, but of course the model needed some breaks in between. So when she went back, she was slightly not in the same place. I know it's really hard. So I had trouble figuring out the place, but the thing was I liked her first pose, so it was really difficult to kind of make a shift in that. And then one of the problems that I faced was I made a mistake with allocating where the mouth was. It was much higher, but it was really difficult to reboot that. And I think the problem with this is that I started using the round brush too quickly. I should have stayed with the flat brushes and just marked the general shapes of the areas and blocks rather than try to cover up the whole place. So you can see there's no really white paper seeping through, which I think I should have left more of and just really went with more geometrical shapes in that terms until I really knew where to allocate her mouth and her nose as well. So I went over here with the watercolor Daniel stick, but I couldn't quite make it really bright white because I was working wet and wet, obviously. But this was done in an hour and a half. I'm not too unproud of it, so to speak, but it's not my favorite one. So the next time I'm thinking, yeah, I could use this graphite tint blocks, but make it more minimal. Maybe I went just too overboard with it. I would have maybe did the hat with the hair and left these areas just for watercolor. And with these graphite Aquarelle pencils, I probably would just use it for the darkest dark areas just to outline it and use the flat brushes. Let me show you the work that I am proud of. So this was my first figure drawing open studio that I went, and the finished piece. I quite like that. So you can see there's more open white paper kind of poking out, and although it looks ghostly, I just love that feel to it, and I love the color choices that I've used here. And you can see those more square flat brushes used here. So I think the second time I went to the open studio was my favorite. See, you can see the whites. It's not all covered, and I think I like that more. And I think I took my time to gradually build it rather than feeling like a bit rushed throughout the process. So that was my favorite. And now I like to get into what I've been working on. So, okay, I've been kind of going crazy, hectic with a lot of things recently, and I've been applying to a lot of juried art shows, galleries, many different open calls. And one of the things that kind of got me was Rockwell has this wetland competition that the deadline is, I believe, the 13th of April 2025. And they were like, okay, if you use 1 or maybe 2 paint tubes from the Charm 3 and the Charm 4 series and paint something related to the wetlands, there was like flora, some insects, some animals, and so forth, then you can possibly win a spot. So I thought, oh, that'll be fun because I just love Rockwell paints. There's a couple that I own, and I just bought a few from them again for this specific from the Charm 3 and the Charm 4. And I'm just in love with a lot of their colors, but these were specifically, I I couldn't like choose, so I started working on a few different color palette choices, and I wanted to paint my sun with some dragonflies flying around. So I was looking at this. I've posted it on my highlights as a poll because I couldn't quite decide, but I just thought I'll go with this. And funny story, there was one friend of mine from back from Munich who now lives in Copenhagen. She was like, what vibes are you going for? And I was just like, what? Is that even a process of thinking what vibes you're going for? And I kind of like looked back like 5 years ago. Maybe I was looking at vibes, but I don't know, somehow like the vibes isn't something I start off from when I'm like thinking about a color palette or a painting. And I just felt that difference was so interesting. So I'll probably do a podcast episode about that. How we approach the process like is so different. So for me, it's more about like reflecting and like thinking about, okay, like what kind of meaning I want it to hold, or like there's a certain inspiration that came in, and then maybe that time I was struggling with something, and then I'll incorporate that element and the feelings, and then I'll paint with those feelings and reflect on it while I'm painting it. That's usually my process rather than the vibes, because the vibes is, I just feel like it's already embedded in me. Like I'm painting me. I'm painting what I feel I like. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I hope you kind of get it. Okay, so I finished this piece. It eventually became this with my son, the wetlands with some water lilies as well as the dragonflies. So that piece was done. This is called the dragonfly color from, I think, the Wetland charm. I think it was charm 3, but dragonfly is pretty. I don't know if you can see it quite closely, but it's got this purple, green, bluish kind of look to it. So pretty. I like the subtlety of their colors. They're not quite strong, so I had to use like other colors from different brands as well. But here, this is the maple samaras with Wetland, and I've used Wetland color here with the core sap, as well as Palaiba blue. Also that aqua green that I mentioned. So yeah, to get more of that strong chroma kind of look. And then I've also painted this, which I will probably apply for the same competition, submit it with this one as well. So this one is for the flora, but I've used the Magic Wizard from Rockwell. Look at that granulation right there. It's such a pretty color. And then I've used Morai Witch as well as the Maple Samaras, God's Back. It's a lot of Rockwell's colors right here. And then I use a bit of gouache and soft pastels just to enhance the painting a bit. I've been going all over the place, and I've tinted these papers. There's something about tinting papers that I just adore doing. I just love it. And it's funny because I was kind of thinking, why do I love tinting these papers? My grandmother, who's Japanese, her mother was from like a kimono family where they made kimonos and tinted the fabrics to make the kimonos. And I thought maybe it comes something from there. You know, there's like this innate thing that's built into us, the reason why we just love doing certain things. And yeah, that kind of like then connected me to an artist statement. And it's just so fun. Like once I started writing my artist statement and kind of thinking about like these different things, I just feel like my work has been cohesive than it was before. So I strongly recommend you try to write an artist statement. I hate writing, but it's been very like a thoughtful, like a nice process. So those I'll be painting something. I'm not too sure. I'll let it like find its own way. So I've also applied to this group show that I joined in, and it was the deadline was way past, but a neighbor who actually lives just right across from where I live is an artist, and she's been living in Washington for a very long time. So she's introduced me into this person who was the resident artist of this gallery. And I submitted my works and she was like, yeah, you're in. So I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. So I joined this show. I submitted my artwork. So what did I get out of this show? The number one thing was the connection. I went to this figure drawing open studio. I made a few connections, but it wasn't like a deep connection. I just felt like, oh, this will probably not be like a thing for the long term. But when I went to this group show, I met this amazing artist called Alexandra. And yeah, when I saw her, I was like, okay, this is gonna be like a long-term friendship. So it was amazing. I got to connect with her, and she came over to my house. We had tea, we created artwork together. And yeah, she'll be joining me on my podcast as well. So that'll be really fun. I'm just happy I made that connection because I just feel like you need another artist friend. I don't need to feel motivated by another artist because like I'm scattered enough. I can do tons of things, you know, and I can be working on tons of stuff. But it's nice to have that, like, we're working on this together. I don't know, I just feel like, oh, she's working so hard to get into galleries and museums eventually, and like to feel like others are trying to make it as well is just like, I don't know, comforting in itself. So yeah, thought I'd share that. And basically I'm working on this huge piece right here that's not yet done. I know I've had like a podcast episode with Ellie, who's another of my artist friend back from Munich. I love her. Through our conversation on a podcast episode, we dived deep into our rituals around making art. And basically the difference between us is that I'm more about numbers, about the output, because I do know for a fact that among the 250 paintings that I did, only 10% are gonna be really good. So I just feel like we have to create numbers, whereas Ellie has a different approach. She's more about, no, like it can wait. There's an empowerment in letting it wait and coming into painting when you're ready, you know. But that got me thinking, maybe there's something to take in from that, you know. Maybe, yeah, it can wait. So that's what I did with this piece. And it did give me that nice empowerment of stillness, of like enjoying other aspects of life, like the nature outside is just lovely. Spring has like come, and you know, it feels warmer. There's like a lot of flowers blossoming and so forth. So with this piece, I really took it slow. And what I mean by that was, yeah, I did the first initial sketch, you know, see how the idea will come about. I thought, okay, I'll work on it. I started working on it, but then I realized, what am I gonna do with the flowers? Because they are white, obviously with watercolor you'll have to either mask the white that you want to leave off if it's like a huge background but there's lots of like white spaces, or am I going to paint them with acrylic and gouache, or am I going to use pastels with oil sticks? So I did these experiments and I just love the outcome of these two, so I'm still not sure about that. And then next came, wait a minute, what red am I going to use if I'm going to incorporate any red? And I had to do a bit of testing. So it was like stopping throughout the process to test things. So this one I was like, okay, would I want to place my son in the middle and make him kind of like a neutral color with Payne's gray so the background stands out, or should I make it color like this? And I decided to go with this. Usually my process looks more kind of intuitive and just going with the flow a lot, although I do the initial study, the sketch in once at the beginning. But there's like this momentum that I just feel like while my feelings for it lasts, I need to work on it and I have to finish it, you know. Whereas like here, I was more intentional with like letting it be okay to pause and to experiment and to be sure about moving forward. So that was good. But what happened was that I haven't went back to this painting because there's other inspirations that I like came into and I wanted to work on them rather than getting into this piece. So now it's been like over a week. Yeah, it's been exactly 1 week today and I haven't worked on it. And then here I'm doing this video and I've been procrastinating to do it. So today I'll be working on this one, but yeah. So I don't know, it's a mixed feeling. I just feel like maybe it is good to like work on something the way you do and the way you feel more passionate about, because it is a struggle for me to be like, no, it can wait. So I'm trying to find that balance, I guess. It's all about balance, right? But it's been so difficult. Now I don't feel like I have that same passion that I did a week ago when I was working on this piece. So we'll have to see. Oh yeah, I also want to ask you, let me take this camera. I'm thinking about creating a video of a studio makeover. So the place is a bit of a mess. My problem is the bookshelf is okay, it can be there. I got another trolley which is working fine. I put all my stuff. This is my working studio. It's a bit of a mess right now. The easel's fine. The problem is, number one, I don't want to place my scanner right there. It's not the best place to have it. And number two, I want to do something about this space. So I've just moved to Washington last September 2025 from Munich, where we knew we were only staying for 2 years. So I didn't get anything for all this. But basically, I want something like a shelf or something right here to place all the things. It's mainly a lot of like sewing materials, as well as papers, and the artworks are the main thing. So I want to use much space vertical, then obviously like it's not such a big space really, and I want to keep this passage open so I can move the desk to the front whenever I want to face that way, and put it back as well. So most of these are really papers and small bits of materials for the sewing. So I'm kind of thinking maybe a flat file as well as something that can go vertically. I'm not too sure. I'm kind of mixed up, but it has to be acid free, that's for sure. Yeah, some kind of shelf, but if you have any ideas, I would be very happy. And also for the paint tubes, I want to kind of make a system where I can hang them on the wall. Maybe like a curtain rail, like something like I'm using right there, that I can have a hook that I can place on and put all the paint tubes with clips. So that's what I'm kind of thinking, because there's something about having to go inside there and picking them out, and I can't see it in one go. And also that goes same with the swatches. So if I can have everything clipped up, hanging on the walls, that would be nice. But if you have any suggestions on what you do with your paintings that have already been painted and how you store them, the best one would be to store them vertically, but it's not a canvas, it's like paper. So if you have any ideas around there where people can even come into the studio and like flip through them easily, that would be great. I'm thinking flat files probably is the best idea, but they're so huge, you know. And then the second bit is probably getting a shelf. But if you have any ideas, yeah. And then I'll have to place that scanner, I think, right there somehow. Okay, so welcome everybody. I don't know what really today's